Welcome back to the Durian Heat, where we discuss issues in Southeast Asia. I'm Grace Cho. Today I've been speaking with Chee, founder of HiGi Energy, Nini, CEO of myHarapan, and Katka, who is a program director of startupmalaysia.org and AsianLaunchpad. So startupmalaysia.org is a team of passionate people who love to help entrepreneurs succeed. They have various programs and projects which strive to airlift the Malaysian startup ecosystem. One of them is to accelerate and grow them to successful business by providing mentorship and access to global network. AsianLaunchpad. This provides seed funding for startups. So seed funding is the earliest stage of venture funding, and also it helps entrepreneurs pay for their expenses whilst building their ventures for the first 100 days. The goal of AsianLaunchpad is to get you up and running as quickly as possible from idea to a stage where you can raise more rounds of funding from other investors. myHarapan, or the Youth Trust Foundation, is an organization which is dedicated towards empowering young Malaysians by supporting youth projects and contribute to nation-building efforts. So with these three speakers today, let's hear what they have gone through and also noticed in this industry at the Durian Heat.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Back to Chee.
Yeah.
Starting something at regional level, and you started in Malaysia, but you're looking at the global level, of course. What is your main focus and what do you want to see?
So basically, my experience in starting up an ASEAN startup, I would like to talk a bit on the not so good part on this one, because people have been looking for a good side. So basically, if you want to start an ASEAN startup, it's really challenging for us as a regional startup, as culture shock is over there, and language always has been one of the hurdles. And yet, the agreement among the founders, we actually pin our startup towards embracing the rich culture of ASEAN and open-minded to new things. And of course, we actually looking forward to something that it's really great, where not just we are one of the player as ASEAN startup, but we're also looking for more emergence of more ASEAN startup, where young people go out of the region, go out of their comfort zone and meet new people and talk with them about their project, their ideas, and eventually turn up into a business that do good.
Well, when it comes to business or being an entrepreneur, my big question here is always sustainability. How do you sustain your company? But idea is there, but of course with all those programs that you have participated that really help you to boost your ideas and to be able to make your company sustainable. So I would love to shift the question to you, Nini, because you've been having this company for years. What is it like when it comes to sustainability of the company, as well as perhaps you can share some challenges that you have faced so far?
We'd like to think of ourselves as a social business.
I see.
So we are a foundation if you look into the legal framework. But what we do is we make sure that we have a mindset where it involves a lot of entrepreneurial, there's a lot of commitment to making sure that there are revenue streams, there are revenue models, and this is an ongoing process, is an ongoing a creative and innovative process, which I feel is very similar to any startup.
I see.
To be honest. So even if it's 4 years, it's not that many years, it's only been 6 years. So I like to think of ourselves as toddlers still. And it's a learning process which is akin to startups as well. And the idea that we always have to be on our toes to look at what are the sort of things that can... One thing is to provide a social solution to the young people, which is our own main beneficiaries, whether or not, whatever background they come from, whether or not they're poor, they're educated and whatever not. But the idea is that they too can also make a difference. So I think if people understand that they can make a meaningful difference in their lives, and with the support of good people like ourselves, and there are some other intermediaries as well, that they can actually push forward. A lot of the times I know startups who feel that they can only do it alone,
right,
which is not is not ever the case. You can never do things alone. And the idea now is, how can we start things more sustainably, meaning more long term, by establishing good relationships with others, whether or not they're competitors, because sometimes, your enemies are best.
Well, yeah, at healthy level, yeah.
Yeah, healthy level, so that we don't kill ourselves, I mean, the challenges I see in a lot of young people who come to us to gain support or to receive some level of support is either they're scared.
They're scared.
They're scared of the idea of doing something bigger than they thought they could possibly make. And I think we're there to tell them that you can do it step by step. Secondly, is the idea that a lot of people come from the academician background also.
Right.
And they're in the business, so to speak, to only work on the innovation. So the idea of commercializing is something that's totally new and totally terrifying. So how can we get entrepreneurs together with guys who can innovate? So that not everyone can do one single thing, excellently. But the idea is, how can we work with together who may be able to complement us as human beings? So that would be the other challenge. The other challenge for young people, I think for old people like me as well,
I didn't think you were that old.
is again the fire in the belly. The fire in the belly it needs to be sustained as well. So the idea that passion can fuel you and your business requires maintenance. So a lot of times people hit a wall and they feel that that's the end of the road, and feel that, guess what, there's no other way than climbing the wall. And they don't see any other means of going through that process, when actually I think if someone pushes them through, or they push themselves a little bit more, they can achieve a lot more. It's just that they don't see it for themselves. So I think it's the fire in the belly extinguishes very early for young people in particular. So how do we, for example, in myHarapan, ensure that we can tell them that, guess what, one, you're not alone. Secondly, guess what, we even give you money.
Right. You mean the grants?
We give you a grant, and we also give you, in terms of equity, we have a venture, an enterprise venture company that will help in looking into other areas of financing for social entrepreneurs, because there are not many right now.
So social entrepreneurs, basically, they do contribute to the society rather than the business model, is it?
You have to be a business model. You have to have a business model.
Right.
But the thing is, you're motivated primarily by the fact that you need to come up with a social solution. You're driven by the fact that you need to eradicate poverty. You're driven by the fact that you're going to provide a different alternative way of cooking. Rather than fuel, you're using, for example, with HiGi, you're using a Malaysian technology product, which is now being sold or being developed in Philippines. And why not, therefore, other areas where there's high synth? It's a commodity that's available. We're not fully utilizing it to the benefit of ASEAN.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about the ecosystem when it comes to entrepreneurship in ASEAN, of course. So that question is for you, Katka. So would you elaborate and also enlighten us with the ecosystem of entrepreneurship and how you have noticed in this region?
So, I mean, it's been really great to run the accelerator last year, which, for us is, I would say, kind of the first start with the first batch to see what is possible. And I think even it was really challenging to have teams from many different ASEAN countries. It was also very beneficial to see what is possible. And, you can imagine to bring young leaders who didn't even know what is entrepreneurship, to basically change them to start businesses in a matter of less than 3 months and implementing that in their countries. Because when we run accelerator, we just don't have them in one location as many accelerators. We send them to the field. So the teams went to Philippines, they went to Vietnam and implemented the projects, on the spot, and really had to kind of make sure that they are focusing the correct way. I think that's something that I really could see through HiGi and other organizations that were started. Then they say, okay, we cannot do this. And we say, well, what it will take to make it happen, And it's really amazing to see kind of in the question of the really short time to see them to really fight for what is possible and see those results. And so I think that's actually one of the things that probably was mentioned a bit earlier. It's about the mindset. I think there's a lot of traditional views that are changed, right? I mean, when we grew up in ASEAN, and I hear that all the time, people say, well, my parents want me to be lawyer or doctor, right? Because they're so afraid of my culture. But I think there's also other ways to think of, well, I can be entrepreneur and how I can really make it in ASEAN. It doesn't just have to be in one of the countries that I'm from. And I think HiGi is a great example of really, having technology from Malaysia, but really testing it in the ground of Philippines, and now even starting Vietnam, and kind of seeing where it can take them.
By having, I will say, a few branches in the different countries, have you noticed, Jackie, any differences in the different countries when it comes to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, definitely, because there are different level of acceptance. Like, for example, it might be quite hard in Vietnam, because I know it is now being developed, but of course, for sure there's some level of the mindset is still like going for, like what Katka has just said, they're still going for the more professional career. And definitely in Malaysia, like what Nini just said about the environment and the ecosystem that myHarapan has been venturing into, where it's trying to create an ecosystem for young people to actually go out and go all out, and of course to strive for their own dream and just do whatever they think is appropriate or like appropriate to do for them to do. Yeah.
When you talk about the politics, economies, even social culture, there are quite a lot of issues, number of issues that we can talk about. And also, if I'm not mistaken, 60% of ASEAN population is under 30 years old people, and that's when there are a lot of potentials that they can make a change, like you mentioned before. So, all right, so we'll take another short break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation.
You're now listening to Durian ASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing.